Los videojuegos, fuente de entretenimiento, de bronca, de desafíos, de relaciones, ¿por qué no? Muchos han encontrado amigos, han encontrado pareja. En fin, los videojuegos son algo que ha evolucionado enormemente desde sus humildes comienzos. Pero en los años 90 una revolución sacudió la industria. Y te voy a nombrar dos grandes títulos, Wolfenstein 3D y Doom, que no solo redefinieron lo que significaba jugar, sino que también establecieron los cimientos de un género que hoy llamamos First Person Shooter o FPS, género que sin él el gaming moderno definitivamente no sería lo mismo. Por eso hoy quiero invitarte no a una reseña específica sobre estos dos juegos, sino a algo mucho más interesante. Para muchos de nosotros el videojuego Doom ha sido y sigue siendo emblemático. A mí me tocó conocer el Doom con 7 años y lo jugaba en mi vieja computadora 486 y recuerdo cuando vi esa suerte de entorno 3D en el que tenías un arma en el medio de la pantalla, la cara de tu personaje que te mostraba si estaba enojado, si estaba dañado, los monstruos, una cosa impresionante. Y ese fue el nacimiento de una franquicia que hoy día sigue haciendo juegos modernos. Pero no me quiero poner yo a hacer una reseña sobre estos dos juegos. Para poner una línea de tiempo y sentar las bases de lo que sigue del video, lo único que voy a decir es que Wolfenstein 3D fue lanzado al mercado en 1992, Doom fue lanzado al mercado en 1993 y ambos juegos patearon el tablero de lo que hasta ese momento se conocía en el gaming. Y como dije, para salirme de Damián haciendo una reseña, este video viene cargado pero cargado de fuerza, porque vamos a hablar con John Romero, uno de los co-creadores de estas dos maravillas que te mencioné y muchos otros juegos más. La verdad es que teniendo la oportunidad de hablar con una leyenda como John Romero, me gustaría conocer un poco de su historia personal, cómo conoció el mundo del gaming, cómo se puso a desarrollar juegos, a qué edad, qué expectativas tenía cuando hizo su primer juego, si pensaba que se iba a convertir en un boom como lo terminó siendo, y bueno, muchas otras cuestiones interesantes que solo tienen un sabor especial cuando están contadas por el protagonista principal de la historia. Sinceramente, amigos, como gamer que soy, nunca pensé que iba a tener la oportunidad de ser host de una entrevista con una figura como John Romero. Así es que si en lo que viene me escuchan un poquito nervioso es porque realmente tengo un nudo en el estómago. Aprovecho para agradecerles a los miembros de la comunidad que enviaron sus preguntas para que yo le comparta a John a través de Instagram, así que muchas gracias. Varias de esas preguntas se las voy a hacer en este video a John. Dicho sea de paso, si no sos parte de la comunidad, súmate a Instagram, que es la manera más fácil en la que podemos interactuar. Y no quiero aburrirlos más, vamos a pasar a los bifes, a lo importante. Si no me conoces, mi nombre es Damián, esto es El Cajón Retro, y para los que me conocen, gracias por estar, amigos, ya se la saben, acompáñenme. Alright, my friend, here we are, guys. We have John Romero. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So for the people watching this video, it's Sunday. It's 5:30 p.m. for me. What is 9:30 p.m. for you, right?
10:30. Yeah.
10:30. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
It's like 5 hours.
Yeah, it's an opportunity and honor for me. I was working on the introduction of this video and sharing it with the audience, right? Doom, and I'll start talking about Doom, right? Because that's how
Yeah.
I knew about you. I didn't have a good. Let me start saying this. I didn't have a close relation with my father, but you know, it's interesting. I have a lot of memories playing Doom with him when I was a kid. It's interesting
cool.
how there's a lot behind video games, right? For some people. But okay, let's start breaking the ice. And if you want to introduce yourself, who you are, who we are talking with.
I am a game developer. I started as a programmer. I still code. And then, game design, level design, audio design, you name it, production, like pretty much everything. I've started 10 companies and been making games since 1979.
Since 79. How old were you in the 79?
11.
11 years old? Hold on. And you started developing games at 11 years old. Man, that makes me feel bad because at 11 years old, I don't know. I don't know what I was doing, but pretty sure not even close to do something smart.
Yeah, I think it was because, games were such a huge part of my life back then. and then I got this opportunity to like be on a computer for the first time. It wasn't even a home computer. It was, it's a big mainframe at a college. But I found out that you can actually make games on it. And that's what got me very excited. And I saw Colossal Cave Adventure, which is, which was a classic adventure game. It was the classic adventure game. So I was just, maybe I can make something like that. So my first game was an adventure game, just kind of emulating what a Colossal Cave was like.
So I love that, to start getting some context here. So you were 11. There was a computer you said in the school, right?
University.
In the university. Okay, but hold on. Okay, you were in the
I was 11.
You were 11 and already on the university? No,
I went there in the summertime. I wasn't supposed to be there.
Okay, so you were taking advantage. You were taking advantage of free resources, let's say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yep.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what was the? Do you remember the top 3 games on the back in the 79s?
You mean like what kind? You mean video games or?
Yeah, what kind of video games were in the market? Because if we talk today, people will say, "Oh, Call of Duty, Minecraft, that stuff," right?
Yeah, Space Invaders was the number 1 game, and 79 that was Asteroids had just come out, so that was even better than Space Invaders, which was number 2, and also Galaxian was out, which was the very first color arcade game.
That's pretty cool, man. I have a Space Invaders arcade right here next to me.
Oh, wow.
So we have you at 11 years old playing video games at the college. And when you started developing, was it in your house or also in the college, the university?
It was at the university. I started learning how to program while I was there. So I just went every day and just was doing more and more programming. We didn't get a computer in the home for about 3 years after that. So my development was going to computer stores where they sold computers that would go in your home, and I would get on those computers and I would program on those computers, and those were like TRS-80. I would program those at Radio Shack. The Apple IIs were at a store really close to that Radio Shack called Capital Computers, until in 1980 the college opened up an Apple II room right next to that mainframe room. So then I just went over there all the time as well, if the college was open. If not, then I would go to the computer store in town. It was actually the next town over, so it took me a long time to get there because there was no road connecting them. So it took a long time to like ride my bike all the way to the next town.
Man, that's pretty awesome. Were your parents supporting you?
They didn't care really. It was like it's too weird of a thing,
That's why I'm asking, because I'm guessing back in the 70s, computers and video games were like, today it's a common word, right? It's everywhere. But in the 70s, it was emerging, I guess. So it was not that common.
No one had a computer. Yeah, in the 70s, people really didn't have computers at home. It started in the 80s, in the early 80s. So I think, like we got a computer in 1982. So that was still really early because computers for homes had just emerged in 1977 for the first time. So this is 5 years later. But it was still very early. This is before the IBM came, the PC. It was before the Commodore 64. It was really early. The Atari 800 came out in 1979. So when I started to program was when the Atari 800 computer came out. And the Apple II had been out for 2 years already. So it was still very, very early. So I only knew one other person with a computer at home. And he had an Atari 800 when we got the Apple II.
And who? Because you weren't taking classes to learn how to program. So who was teaching you?
I was teaching myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just got a book. Yeah, the manual that comes with a computer that has like how to program in BASIC, usually like really simple ways of teaching you. So I was just basically reading that, and just playing around trying to make stuff.
That's even more crazy, man. And what was the first game you have programmed?
Um, the first thing I tried to make was called Crazy Climber when I got the computer at home.
I honestly
Crazy.
thought that was just a rumor, but it's true
What?
about
What
Crazy
was
Climber.
wrong?
Because I saw videos on YouTube saying there are rumors out there saying he programmed something like Crazy Climber, but I couldn't find any fact. So it's a fact. You did it.
Yeah, it was the first program that I wrote on the Apple II, and it was in low res, so it was only 40 pixels by 40 pixels. Because in the arcade, one of my favorite games in the arcade was Crazy Climber. So I was trying to make my own on my computer at home, and it was funny because there was some aspect of programming that I didn't know yet, which was basically variables. So I still hadn't like really used variables. So when I programmed was programming the Crazy Climber game, there was a point where I learned about variables and was like, I need to rewrite this whole thing. And so I started rewriting it, but then somehow I deleted it on my disk because I was just new to using disks, in a disk drive.
Yeah.
So I accidentally deleted it. So I don't have that first program.
Oh man.
I know. I have my second one and everything past that, but not the first one.
Oh, that's crazy. That's interesting, man. And how was the experience programming on this early computers and early stages of computers? I would
Oh
say
man.
compared to what is today.
Well, compared to what else you were doing, it was
Okay.
incredible. I mean, you couldn't create on a machine. Like, unless you were programming, there was no creation of anything.
Right.
So learning how to program was the way to create. And then it was like, what else do I need to learn? I need to learn more stuff to especially with games. If I didn't have games as a driver for my learning, I would not have learned assembly language, when I learned it, which was, at the very end of 1982. It would have been like, well, what do I need that for? I can make a huge spreadsheet program in BASIC or something, that would have been dumb, but it would have been doable. And but I did. I because of speed, I needed to learn. I needed to learn assembly language, which is like the language that the actual chip runs. It's just a bunch of numbers, and so I needed to learn that. It turns assembly language is like 3 letters and some other information, but then that turns into actual numbers called machine code, and machine code is what the CPU executes. So I needed to learn that. So I did. I learned it probably a week before we moved to England. And when we moved, they took the computer away for half a year. So I just learned the new language that I needed to understand, and I couldn't use it because they took the computer away.
Oh man, what a pain.
I was writing all of my stuff on paper. So I have notebooks full of assembly language code, hoping that when the computer comes, I can enter all the stuff.
So you were just writing down on paper, hoping to, I don't know, test it someday in the future.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. No. So again, for context, right? When did you, I'm assuming you saw something on the gaming industry, because today for us, it's easy. Gaming, it's a world, it's something. But back in the 70s, the 80s, what triggered you, or what was the idea, the concept that triggered your mindset saying, man, gaming industry is going to be big, I need to get into this? Did that happen?
Well, I think I didn't think about that. I didn't think like, oh, this is gonna get really big. I already saw it getting big. Like it was like a fact. There's no reason to say anything about it. It was like these 3 computers started the industry, and then by like 1984, there were so many computers that most of them died off. There were so many. There was a glut of computers in 1984. The Apple II and the Commodore 64 and the Atari and the PC were the main computers that lasted until about the end of the 80s, and then the PC won. The PC kept going, and the others just died. And there was the Atari ST and the Amiga, but those also died just within 5 years or so. But it was a PC that just like lived through it because it went 16-bit, and the others were still 8-bit computers. So I just knew, looking at the fact that there are these other computers and people are starting to make games on all of these computers. These computers all had different types of games. It wasn't like today where you might make a game and you'll see it on every platform that exists very quickly. That was actually kind of rare back then. The majority of games on a system, like on a different computer, were made only for that computer. And so they had a completely different design style, a different vibe. They all looked different than another computer. So, it was pretty great because games had different people, different designers, different aesthetics based off of the ecosystem of games that were on that system. So they evolved their own style of game.
Right.
Even though there were, genres were just starting to begin back in the early 80s, there was still a whole lot of like just try all kinds of stuff that had no genre. There was no genre for it. It was just crazy stuff. And but it was really great to just see that, because I did look at all the computers. I wasn't just stuck on the Apple II. I was looking at the Commodore, playing games on the Commodore and all that, and on the Atari. PC just didn't have anything on it. It was no good like for games. It was so primitive. The early hardware wasn't made for games like the Commodore and the Atari. They were made for games, so they had a really good game hardware on it. Fortunately and unfortunately, I had the Apple II, which forced me to get really good at programming to make anything good as a game, because you had to write all your code to put the dots on the screen, where the other computers had sprites. They were just hardware would put them up. So it was so much easier. So the Apple II forced me to get really good at programming to make my games go fast. And
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And I assume you still have copies of the very initial games you have done, right?
Yeah. What we're doing, it's been happening pretty slowly, but I'm putting together this big box that we're going to sell on our site. This is called The Early Years. And it basically is like all of the games that I wrote from my earliest games all the way through all the 80s until id Software, basically.
When is that going to the market? Because I want one.
I don't have a date on it, but I've been slowly working on it in the background. But it's like you're going to basically just be able to double click. You'll be able to double click and just run a game, and it'll be an Apple II emulator that's running and playing it. Yeah, because they're Apple II games.
And where people can be aware and follow the progress of the project?
Not posting progress, but Romero.com is where all of our merch shows up. Like that's our games and everything.
Excellent.
So right now, like the latest thing that we put out was Catacomb 3D, which was the first-person shooter that we made in 1991 with texture mapped walls for the first time. And everything.
I was going there next.
Yeah. And there's a documentary on there that I interviewed John Carmack and Adrian Carmack and Tom Hall and put together about a half-hour documentary about the creation of that game, which only took 2 months. So we did a lot of stuff in 2 months, but it was like it's a really fun documentary to watch, because we totally are 100% talking about Catacomb and all the stuff that happened during Catacomb 3D, because we're making other games at the same time.
I love it. And you guys have done Catacomb 3D when working on soft disk, or not?
We were making it for soft disk, but we weren't at soft disk. This is a year later. So 1991, we left soft disk on January 31st of 91 and started id Software full time on February 1st of 1991. And then we were not going into soft disk, but we were making games just for soft disk at that time to keep doing what we were doing, but in our own office and building up our own engine and all of the code and tools all around it, so we could start making our own games eventually, which started I think in June of that year. That's when we started to make our own like next set of Commander Keen games.
Oh, Commander King. So help me again with that timeline, right? So that was a year later after Soft Disk. So it was Catacomb 3D part of or under
It
id
was a
Software or
softest.
not yet?
It was a softest game made by id Software because we're separate companies.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah, and the timeline in 1991 is really insane. And I have it actually on an image of the entire timeline because we made 13 games that year. So they are overlapping each other and everything, but every single start and end of every game is on this chart that I have.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it's crazy because in order to be ready for this interview, I was doing a lot of research, right? And I found some timelines, and I was like, no, specifically about that year, right? At the 91, the 90 and 91. I was like, yeah, there's no way I can memorize this, so I will.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I will just go ahead with the chat.
Yeah,
pretty cool, man. So we have Catacomb 3D, and that was because people talk a lot about Doom, right? Including myself, of course. To me, and we will get into that. But I mean, Catacomb 3D was the first real first-person shooter, the one that brought the concept, right, of that 3D shaping style. So why people isn't talking about Catacomb 3D? What do you think about that?
Well, it was a pretty limited game, like as far as what you could do in it, and it did have some issues when you're turning. It didn't look as good as Wolfenstein when you're turning. So it was like the first person concept was there, the texture mapped walls were there, the movement was the first level. It was like the first iteration of a person going through a dungeon. The game we made just before that, actually it was like a half a year before that, was called Hover Tank 3D, or Hover Tank 1, sorry. It's called Hover Tank 1. And that game was our very first FPS. It was first person, but had a tank gun out the front. But it was the very first one. It was really not great. We made it in 2 months, but Catacomb 3D was way better, but still not there yet. It was still first person, and you're shooting fireballs. And there was some pretty cool technology in that game we didn't put in Wolfenstein for some reason, like animating walls and stuff. I don't know why we didn't do that. But it was still the very first thing. Wolfenstein was us going into VGA mode, digital sound effects, much better movement, much better camera angles. Yeah, it was way more refined, and then Doom was like way more refined than Wolfenstein. But Catacomb 3D was like that was the beginning of. It was the reason why we made Wolfenstein. If we didn't make Catacomb 3D, Wolfenstein would not have happened. Because I remember, we were making Commander Keen at the beginning of 1992, and one night I was just like, we shouldn't be doing this. Like, we just made a 3D game that no one's seen before, like that has texture mapped walls and stuff. And I know that we can make something even cooler from that viewpoint, with a better engine, working on it even longer. We should be doing that, not going back to 2D. That's old. That's old stuff.
And I like that. I was planning to ask you, because let's go back to the 1991, right? Everyone was thinking on platform, up, down, right, left, simple. So how did you get that idea, the concept? I mean, what were you doing when you thought, what if we add dimension to the screen? How would that happen? Because it's a new mindset, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there were 3D games in the arcade, like Red Baron and Battlezone.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Star Wars arcade game. They're all lines. There weren't not solid walls or anything.
Vectors.
But they're just vector graphics. But it was like that was 3D. And right. So when there were also in the 80s, all through the 80s, culminating in probably 1987's Dungeon Master, texture mapped walls, but it was just like you would be in a fixed position and then you would move forward a block,
Right.
and it would do it real slowly, like do, like, oh, it's so crazy, and so it was like, we need to do that fast and smooth. That was like, so the idea of having 3D had been in games for a long time, but it had never been like real time, except that there was a game in 1982 called Way Out. It's one word, made by Paul Edelstein, and it was 3D, and it was super smooth moving, and it had solid filled walls. So you could totally move in it like you could move in Wolfenstein, and this was on Atari and Apple II and stuff. So it was the only game that ever did that. And it was doable on an 8-bit computer smoothly and at a good frame rate. It was like, you can do it. We need to do that as well. And that's where John Carmack, he wanted to get into 3D at the beginning of 1991. So, we're making so much stuff, but finally he wanted to make Hover Tank. It's like he wants to make his first 3D game. So we're like, all right, let's do this. And so he worked so hard those two months to write that engine. The game itself was nothing. Like, writing that code was like one day. Right. But it was like the engine was so hard to write to get into 3D for the first time and to do it at a high frame rate. EGA is a crazy video mode on the PC, 16 color mode. VGA was much easier to do. Like with Wolfenstein, it was actually easier to program that.
That's awesome, man. And let's go back to Wolfenstein 3D, right? You guys complete the development. The game is out there. When you guys realized about the impact of the game in the consumers?
It was instantly. I mean, it was pretty instant. Like, we knew we were getting updates from Scott Miller, who was our publisher, and I mean, it was we knew it was going to be so big, even before we released it, because we had
unique.
We had them coming to our office. I mean, I was laughing on the floor when we, started chain gunning Nazis and had screams and stuff, and the chain gun sound and everything. No game had ever done that before. No game was that violent. Like, it was the ultimate violent game ever made. And it was just so funny because, just the sounds, and it was so overpowered, pretty much like OP, the way Brutal Doom is OP. It was like that compared to every other game that was out. So we knew it was going to be just insane. And it was like, everyone was so excited that when we were uploading it on May 5th, it was like 4 a.m. when we uploaded it to the BBS. We were up all night. Like, in the publish, Scott and George, they came over to the apartment where we had the company, and they were there, at 4 a.m. with us to upload it to the BBS. And we couldn't wait for people to get it. And it was just explosive the next day. It was nuts.
So, it's exciting. And I hope the people watching this video get the vibe, right? Because I feel that I'm not talking with a developer. I'm talking with a real gamer. That's what makes the difference. You guys working all night, getting the game uploaded at 2 a.m. or whatever. That's a gamer. It's not a developer.
Yeah. I mean, we are gamers. We play games all the time. Even while making Wolfenstein.
This is so great, man.
So we shipped the game. Like, we uploaded Wolfenstein, but we spent another month and a half getting all the 50 other levels done and the hint manual, and that all together was like a $60 big giant game, 60 levels in a book. I mean, it was massive. And that was and everybody bought it. Everyone bought the $60. They wanted everything because nobody had seen this kind of thing before.
Right.
So that was great. We put something out there. We put a whole episode out there for people to play for free and give to their friends. And if they like it, they can buy it. If not, give it to their friends or delete it, whatever. And people loved it. So the goal after that was to get that same kind of experience in the store. And so that's where Spear of Destiny came in. So when we finished the game, and I think it was a month and a half. It was like the end of June, I'd say, when we finished. And then we took our 2-week vacation probably until the middle of July. And then we came back and we started working on Spirit of Destiny. So that took us to the middle of September. And I think we finished on September 18th. And that was when we gave the discs to FormGen, which was in Canada, so they could replicate it and get that into the Spirit of Destiny boxes, which were pretty cool boxes. They had like a holographic foil on the front and everything. It was pretty neat. And
Awesome,
then, like we didn't really need John to work on that project because it was just like data we were using the Wolfenstein engine. It was like a lot of art, new levels, bosses and stuff. So we didn't need John to do really anything. So he could actually spend time working on the next technology upgrade. And so he did that. He worked on the Wolfenstein engine to upgrade that technology. And he added fog and higher ceilings and sloping floors and all kinds of stuff. But it didn't feel like the next leap of tech. It felt like an upgrade, but not like the next crazy jump. So that was we didn't throw it away. We actually licensed it to Raven Software for a game called Shadowcaster, and that was the only game that used that in between engine. But he basically decided to really go the next level. We could not use the same data style of world representation, which was a 2D matrix at the time for Wolfenstein. Like pretty much every game, every Commander Keen, you name it, it's just 2D matrix. Right. And we could not use that for the next game. We needed lines that could have data on them for like texture and offset values, and we needed lights and all kinds of stuff, height, and so that was what how he started architecting the Doom engine, was to basically just forget Wolfenstein, forget that whole engine, the engine era, and begin the new era with a whole new data structure. And that's how he came up with the data structure that Doom uses.
And how was the development? Because other than the textures, I mean, I guess you faced many challenges, or maybe not, right? Because again, it's a different, not only development, another engine.
Everything.
So how was the experience? Yeah.
Everything. We did everything different with Doom. So in the spirit of let's just start over again, 100%, the same way that we kind of started over when we started making Wolfenstein. That's like with Wolfenstein, that was the game where we were done with soft disk. So we did not need to do anything for them. So we could spend as long as we wanted on our next game, and that was Wolfenstein. So that game was 100% as long as we wanted to make it, and we made it in 4 months, and then we spent the other month and a half. There's only 5 of us, right?
That's insane. That's insane, yeah. Man.
Yeah, I mean that was what we did. We lived to make games. So,
and I guess there was after the development, there were a lot of expectations from your side, right? So you released the game with probably questions, right? More questions, and oh man, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, we changed everything for Wolfenstein. So we were used to like, well, let's dump what we've been doing for a whole year and a half, really, which was 2D side-scrolling games. Let's dump that whole thing and go all in with 3D. We're done with 2D. So that was huge. And during Wolfenstein, we also moved. While we're making it, we moved the whole company down to Dallas. And and so that was huge. Then when we were then after we finished with Spirit of Destiny, at the very end of 1992, we were thinking about the Doom engine, starting to come up with those ideas for what could the game be. At the end of November, started to work on the Doom Bible, which was the design doc for Doom. We moved the company into an actual real office building, which was the Black Cube. So we were we were doing really, really well. We had brought on Jay and Kevin on April 1st, about a month before we had launched Wolfenstein. So we had 2 new people. We were only 4 people. So we went 50% up in size. So we got to 6 people. And so and we were doing so well because we had basically kept our salaries just flat. Like the 4 of us were at minimum, but Wolfenstein was insane. So we finally gave ourselves a raise, and then I think about 4 months later we did another raise because it was just going crazy town.
Up.
Yeah, it was just going up. So we're like, let's give ourselves another raise. So we gave ourselves another raise, and all of this stuff happened at the end of 1992. Getting in a real office, furnishing the office. Then we decided, how are we going to do Doom? Brand new engine. We're going to develop on a completely different computer. We're not even going to use PCs anymore to develop. We're going to make games for the PC, but we're going to make them on a new computer called a Next Step computer, which is a different operating system. Today, Next Step is OS 10, Mac OS. So Mac OS was Next Step. And so we were using basically Mac OS back then in 1992. So we got the computers that would run this operating system. We needed to write the tools to do everything. We decided, instead of having the artists pixel click and create every single weapon and every animation by hand, why don't we scan stuff in with a video camera now that we have these really powerful computers that can do anything with video?
For real? Right? Is that what you did?
Yeah, so we got a video camera and we had it pointed at a wall that had a rotating cylinder kind of thing on it. And we basically, Adrian created the Baron of Hell first, and so he made it out of clay and put it on the table, and we basically take a screenshot and we rotate it an eighth, and take another screenshot and rotate it 8 times, take pictures of every single rotation. Then he has to animate it a frame and do that whole process all over again. But just imagine having to do it with pixel clicks and create.
No. That's what it's crazy.
It's so much work. So we created a whole new way of doing art, not just the monsters. We did that with the guns. So we bought toy guns at the store and we brought them up in front of the camera and took pictures of it. And then we just edited those pictures. We did the animation the same way. It was great. It was to scan it. We had not done animation that way either. So this was a much better way to do animation, because there was no such thing as Photoshop. It was a very limited back then. Right. And so we had a new way of programming the game, a new way of doing all the art. They were still using PCs to do the art editing because they were using Deluxe Paint 2, which is a PC program. Mm-hmm. But we were using the Next Step system to write the code, to debug it, to do level design. I wrote the Doom editor on Next Step, so we could use me and Tom could use it to start making levels. And at the same time, the other really hard thing was, writing the engine was amazing. Carmack loved writing the engine. There were a lot of technical things that he had to blast through to make that engine fast and look really good. So one of the things he needed to do was kind of come up with the binary space partition, BSP. So he needed to come up with that idea, which he read a paper that this research scientist named Bruce Naylor had written. And so he found that and decided that he could use that concept and apply it to a level, because that concept was actually made for 3D models so you don't see the polygons on the back side of a model, Right. So with that data structure, why can't I just do it to a level? So he decided to make it apply to the level, and it made the levels go so much faster. At the same time, the creative side was really difficult because we didn't have levels that looked like anything new. We were able to use this next generation editor, but but Tom was the one, because I was busy coding that. Tom was the one doing level design. So he was the game takes place on a space base on Phobos, right? And so he got a book for military construction, a book about military construction, and so he was building stuff like the military would build stuff. It was really not good. It was out of boxes, it just wasn't interesting. Very square. Most of the light levels were all full bright, like Wolfenstein. The ceilings were at the same Wolfenstein ceiling height, and it was just like, it was hard to get out of that mindset, because we had never seen anything on a computer that looked better. Like, we had never seen anything different. If you go back to every dungeon crawling game that had graphics in 3D on the screen, nothing ever was like the way that Doom looks. Everything was like Wolfenstein. It was like that height, and usually it was in a fixed grid kind of thing. So there were no examples for like an abstract level design style that used the same kind of data structure that Doom had. So one day I finally had to just like, okay, we have to move forward on design. I need to come up with the new idea for how to make our levels look really good. So I just came up with an idea, and I made a room, which is an E1M2 now, which is the elevator going down into the dark room in the E1M2 with the two like lit areas up on the top of the imps throwing fireballs and stuff.
Yep.
So I basically made that, and had Tom and the artists and stuff come in and go like, this is what we need to be doing. And they're all like, yeah, that looks cool. So it's like, that's our style. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the style. And so we started to make levels with like, we need to really push contrast in the heights of areas. So like, corridors, big rooms, dark corridor, light area outside. It was the first time we had outside areas even. So that was real exciting to like show people, even on E1M1, look at the outside. You can actually go there. There's something you can go pick up. There's some blue armor. You can go get that.
That's true. I didn't thought about that. That's true. I didn't think that way.
Yeah, it was, if you went to look at through the window, several things happened. You start the level, you go turn to the right, go look out the window, and go like, oh wow, look, there's an outside. Back in 1993, that was actually crazy. So you look outside, and it's like, wow, that's amazing, and you see a fireball coming towards you because there's an imp in that other room who threw a fireball, and you're like, what is that thing? You either get hit in the face, or you move to the side and go, no way. And so you're like, how do I get over there? I'm gonna go kill that guy,
Yeah.
But it was like you get to see, you get to look outside. You see blue armor and that little slime stuff. Like, what is that? And then there's a fireball, and you're looking at an outside scene which you never saw in Wolfenstein. So we're just like, wow, there's so much new stuff. Like, it was important to put a lot of new wow factor stuff in that first room in Wolfenstein or in Doom, to like see that there are ceiling heights and floor heights, and there's stairs, and there's armor that you can pick up, which you didn't have in Wolfenstein. There's shotgun dudes if you're playing ultraviolence. There's shotgun guys right there. There's exploding barrels. There's a dead Marine right in front of you. There's a lot of stuff to take in that first room. And you're not really, unless you're playing ultraviolent, you're safe in there. You can explore and everything until you open that first door, and then those two dudes, possessed humans, come down, and then you start shooting.
That's awesome, man. And how long were you guys developing Doom?
1 year.
Because 1 year. Okay, what a difference, right? 4 months for Wolfenstein, 12 months for Doom, but you guys made the difference, right?
Yeah, we did a lot of work. There was 5 of us making the game for most of the year, and the last 5 months or 4 months was we added one more person, and Tom left, and then Sandy came in, and so we were at 6. We shipped the game with 6 people.
Wow. And okay, the game is done, out there in the market. When did you guys realize that it was a success, a game changer? I would say
we knew it was a success before the game came out. Like, it was already,
I knew it.
Yeah, we knew it. I mean, we were trying to finish the game, and we were getting calls at the office asking us when it was going to ship, and it was like, how do you even have this number? We never put our number out there for anybody. People were trying to find us, and then when we were trying to upload it on the internet, we couldn't even get into the channel to upload it on the FTP site. It was packed full of everybody waiting to download it. And then when it downloaded, when we finally, they had to kick everybody off twice so we could actually upload the thing. And when we uploaded it, everybody downloading it crashed the server, the FTP site 2 times. So we knew it was going to be insane, right? And then we put it on the BBS.
Absolutely, man. And so, for example, can I switch a little? And because I put together some photos, and I want to get your reaction. let me do this. Okay, look at that guy.
Yeah, E1M7.
Oh, that's the level. Okay.
Yep, that's the level that I was working on.
Okay.
So you can see that. If you've ever run MS-DOS, that can't happen on MS-DOS, right?
Right. No, absolutely.
Even though that computer looks like a PC case, when it had PC hardware, it was running a totally different operating system, and it had to have the correct chip. It had to have the correct kind of hard drives and everything, because it only had device drivers for a limited number of peripherals and that kind of stuff. So we had to make sure that we had the right peripherals and the right hardware for the drivers for that operating system.
Just for a genius, man. Here, who broke the door?
That was Carmack. I was in my room working on levels with my door closed because I was playing I was playing loud music.
But this is in Doom 2, right?
That was during, let me think.
I'm just guessing because he's holding
it could have been Doom
2. Yeah.
It must have been after Doom 2.
Yeah.
It was probably during 1995. Like we might have been working on the Ultimate Doom.
Okay.
And anyway, I was in my room and I was going to leave, and the door handle just kept on rotating. And so I couldn't unlock the door. And I was just like, I called John on the phone, the actual hard line phone. And I said, dude, my doorknob is screwed up. It will not turn. It's turning, but it won't open the door. What if you just chop the door down with your axe? That would be awesome. And he's like, all right. I said, let's just chop it down. Let's get rid of the stupid door. So it's over. So he just grabbed it off the wall and he just started chopping the door down. And I had to get up against the wall where the door was because those pieces of wood flying flying across the room into the wall. So I had to do that until we could actually get the door off.
Oh man, I love knowing the story behind the picture. Here,
yeah, that was Wired magazine, I think.
Picture for a magazine. When I saw this photo, what the first thing I thought. Of course, first I was like, man, such a cool guys. They were on magazines. They were probably as cool as rock stars back in the 90s with yes. So, and I want to know if that was the feeling you got. But before that, who has these 2 figures? Do you know that?
What about those 2? Where are they right now?
Yeah.
They're edited software right now. They're
still
they're
sitting
in
there.
Cases. Yeah, they're in cases.
Amazing.
They still have them.
Amazing, man.
That was my first. The Masterman. Yeah.
Yeah. The moment I saw this picture, I was like, man, where are these 2 figures that are part of the history, right?
Yeah. They're at ID right now in the office in Richardson, Texas.
Wow. Again, the feeling. this photo, I mean, looks awesome. Cool style, the colors, long hair, and going back to what I just said, I mean, my reaction seeing this picture is like, man, these dudes were enjoying life as rock stars. But I want to get your reaction. Was that the level of, I don't know, success, or name it whatever you want, but was it that cool?
Yeah. I mean, we were on top of everything, Yeah. The funny thing is, like, we just worked all the time. Like, we were still making games constantly.
Right.
That was in 1995 when this picture was done. I'd say, well, probably the end of 1994. The picture came out or was taken. Yeah, January. So it was the picture was taken at the end of 1994, and they decided to put us on the cover. And I don't even know if we knew that we were going to be on the cover, but they came out and took, did an interview, and they took a bunch of pictures, and, lit up, had a purple flash and all that kind of stuff. And, we had Ferraris. It was like, we're running our own company. We're making games all day long. We're like listening to whatever music we want and just drinking, Dr. Pepper or Diet Coke all day.
And how old were you guys nerds.
Here? Let me see. I was 27 right there.
So, man, such a cool. I can only imagine the feeling. Is that you?
Yeah, it's from the picture. Just a couple ones ago. When I was on the pool table with the two monsters. The picture that's not me screaming like that is a picture from that picture.
Oh, okay, okay.
So when you see me not when you're not shooting me, my face and that sprite comes from the picture that you showed on the pool table.
Okay, because I knew about the sprite, and they put I understand they put your face as a joke. You were not aware, right?
Yeah. I wasn't aware until I saw it.
Right.
So they were hoping that the game was going to get launched, right? The game is going to go out, and then everyone's going to find this, and then I'm going to find out when everyone else does, and and then it's like, ha, look what we did. But I found out before the game ever came out, and I left it in there.
That was pretty cool, man. That was pretty cool. Okay, thank you for that. Let's go back to on track with Doom, right? So, Doom was already out there, all as exists. When did you guys started to work on Doom 2? Because you were, what I understand is that
immediately.
Doom 1, and my question is why? Because when reading and watching YouTube videos, my perception was they didn't have the time to enjoy the success of Doom when they already started to work on the second one, right? That, again, maybe I'm wrong, but that was my gut feeling.
So we made Doom. We shipped it on December 10th, or uploaded on December 10th. We had another company fulfilling orders, right? So people could call a 1-800 number and fulfill. People get the box version of Doom sent to them from this company. It was called Digital Magnetics at the time. And then we switched to a different company called StarPack in Colorado, like probably a year later. So we could go on vacation for a couple of weeks, come back. It's the beginning of January. Doom is blown up all over the place. It's just crazy. And we're like, okay, let's start talking about the next game. Because like, what are we gonna do? Just sit around all day long? But I mean, we're here to make stuff. This is a business. Like we had an office manager, we had a CEO, we had two tech people, like tech support type people. We had a bunch of now we have people who don't own the company there that we're paying salaries to. Like everyone has to work on stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's a real business at this time. And at that time, geez, how many people? There were 6 of us, 7, 8, 9, 10 total, including tech support and everything. So, in Donna was there at the beginning of 1994, and she is still there today. She is still at the company. She's the longest serving person at id Software. So Donna's still there 31 years later. Yeah, and she's Kevin had just Kevin retired a year ago, so she has another year or so before she beats Kevin's record, because he came there in 1992, so he was actually the longest serving, but she will beat that record in a year or so.
Wow.
I know, but so basically it was like, here's what we do. Like our method at that time was to put out a shareware game and then put out a retail version of that game. And so we started doing that with Wolfenstein officially. We did it. Actually, I think Keen happened. We did that with Keen, actually. Commander Keen, the second set of Commander Keens, we put out a retail Keen, shareware Keen, and a retail Commander Keen. Then with Wolfenstein, and then Spirit of Destiny. Then we put out Doom, and then we're like, let's do Doom 2. That'll be the retail one. And so we did a deal with GT Interactive. It was a new company, and we're going to put out Doom 2. They're going to put it in all the stores and all the shelves, and then we're going to start working on our next game. So Doom 2 was supposed to be in the stores. And so we started working on it immediately in January. We got done in August, so it took us 8 months to make it. That's like all the new monsters, 32 new levels, intermissions. We didn't have episodes anymore, so we just had to break it up a little bit with some intermissions, giving you a little bit of story update. New weapon, and we basically decided the formula for Doom was perfect. Do not violate that formula; it's critical. So that was important. So we kept that, and we just added to it. We did not violate it. and so when it came out, it was great. I mean, we were really happy. We handed it off to GT. Success. Yeah, it hit the stores September 30th. We did a Doomsday release on October 10th in New York City at the Limelight, which at that point was a church. It's a nightclub. It was a church that was turned into a nightclub. So we did our event there. And it was massive. Then we started planning for Quake after that.
Doom 2 is just such a bigger, badder, better version of Doom. A lot of people out there waiting for it, for sure. This is pretty much more popular than football.
Once you start playing, you're hooked.
We have a lot of people asking what to expect in Doom 2, when's it going to come out, where is it going to be, where can they buy the game.
We knew it was going to be a monster hit. When the people from GT Interactive Software sat us down and gave us a clue as to what kind of numbers Doom 2 was doing in pre-orders, we all hit the floor. We couldn't believe it. It's phenomenal.
There's a video of Bill Gates using Doom to promote, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Windows 95, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Windows 95,
so, were you guys aware about that, or you just realized it? You were not aware?
He just did it. No, he just did it.
How was the feeling of seeing, Bill Gates using your creation to promote Windows? Was it great, I guess, right?
It was great. Yeah, totally great.
Wow.
I think Doom was installed on more computers than Windows was at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. For you, Bill Gates. I love it, man. I love it. So I really want to be respectful of your time, so I'll try to just 5 minutes or less than 10.
Okay.
How do you see the gaming industry today?
Oh man, it's huge.
I know.
It's massive.
VR, I don't know.
It's packed. Yeah, there's a lot of consoles, but there's some incredible design happening. The technology is unbelievable. Like anybody can make a good-looking game now. You don't even need to be a developer. If you decide that you want to become a developer, you can start making a great-looking game by downloading Unreal 5 and just start putting stuff in it, and it looks great. It's nuts that anybody can make a game today, that all the information that you need is on the internet for free engine, free learning. It's all about your time. And what it comes down to is game design. If you don't have a great game design, then you'll be making a game like everybody else, but that's what it's like when you're first starting to make a game. At some point, you'll start to design stuff that people haven't seen before. Maybe you're going to create something new. Like a new style of game. It's pretty rare to do that, but there's tons of indies trying every day, and they're doing unbelievable work. Like Blueprints right now is like the big one after Balatro, which was insane.
Yeah.
I'm still playing Balatro every day. Blueprints is the latest obsession for like the whole company right now.
Yeah.
Because I have like 100 people working on my new FPS, and there's a lot of them that are playing Blueprints right now.
Wow. And with this, because from my perspective, right, with this VR and the AI as well, where do you think the game is going? It will be all VR in the future. What do you
Nope.
think about that?
No, it's not. VR is like a console. It's just another console. You choose to get into this console where, you know, everything is taken up, all your senses and stuff. But it's a very limited time that you can dedicate to it because you get really tired just playing with
true.
with physicality. So it's just another console. It's the same way that mobile games, that's another console. The Switch, you name it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is,
Just another
it's a
platform,
different
yeah.
console. Yeah, it's another platform.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
total sense.
Because especially when the games have to be made specifically for it.
What was for you the game, your creation, the one that you enjoyed the most?
It was Doom, definitely.
Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot of new stuff when we made Doom.
When we were on the high school, there was this computer room, right, for computer classes. My friend and I, we were the tech guys in the class, and we have installed. We have Doom in some of the computers. So some days we were just squeezing on the computer room and playing using Serial, and we were playing with other of our friends. It was pretty cool, man. It was awesome. It was awesome. Okay, honestly, I have a lot of more questions and about Quake and that, but I said an hour and we're already past. Can I read you a very few questions from my community?
Okay.
So I have, I think, because I did a survey on my Instagram stories, and I said, hey, if you have the chance to ask something to John Romero, what would you ask? And I have more than 200, close to 300 messages. So I did my best to put together and summarize. Many people, I have 85 guys saying thank you. 85 guys saying thank you out of these 300. Nice. Many of the questions were already answered within the interview. Would you be willing to be part of another project related to Doom?
Maybe, never say never.
I like the answer. I like it. Okay. Did you ever thought you were creating a piece of history?
We didn't think that way. I mean, we thought we're all we cared about was we're going to make a really cool game, and then we're going to make another game that will wipe this game out. So, like when we're making Quake, it's like Doom is dead. Like we're going to destroy it. Quake. It's going to be awesome. Like every game, like when we did Wolfenstein, screw Catacombs, it's dead. Doom, Wolfenstein's garbage. So we were always about making just the next cool thing and then moving on. We just never thought about that we had hit this point where we're making things that we're going to live on forever. We never thought that.
IDDQD. I guess you know what that is.
Of course. God mode.
Yeah, man. 98 individuals asked if you were happy creating Doom.
Yeah, of course.
And I guess I know the answer.
Yeah. Tons of fun. Yeah, it was so much fun.
I like this one. What do you think about the movie?
Not good.
Not good.
Neither of them.
Thank you for being that polite. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh,
first person segment was interesting, but
Yeah. What do you think about the newest versions of Doom?
I'm excited to play Dark Ages, and I really like the last two.
Yeah,
I mean, being able to resurrect Doom after so long to make something that was like a definitive version for this era was so hard to do, and they really pulled it off.
Where did you guys get the inspiration to create the final bosses on the games? Because that was pretty sick.
Like with Doom 1, the Baron of Hell.
1, 2, yeah.
Yeah, 2 was let's make a whole room that just attacks the player, basically. Like let's make the icon of sin, this huge face on the wall. We can't animate it or anything. Too much, like the graphics would be insane to try and animate the whole wall. But to have the player would be too busy trying to deal with all the spawning monsters in there. So that was fun. That was like, how do we make something that's like a whole room full of stuff coming towards the player, constant spawning that you have to deal with. It never stops, And so that was really fun. And Doom 1 was just like 2 very tough bosses instead of 1 boss. Let's put 2 in there and like really scare the player, you know? And so
Okay, before we wrap up, do you wanna share a current project, advertise something that it's coming?
yeah, if anybody wants my autobiography, Doom Guy, life in first person, if you want Catacomb 3D, if you want like rare signed Wolfenstein shareware CDs or Ultimate Doom CDs or Doom 2 CDs, all that stuff is on our site. We have like 100 items on our site that are all related to Doom in some way, or Wolfenstein, or just games, or the aesthetic in general. And we add new stuff all the time. So Sigil 1, Sigil 2, which are my episode 5 and 6 for Doom 1, those are on there with, you know, music by Buckethead or music by Thor on Sigil 2. Lots of really cool stuff on the site. And
Excellent.
So check that out. It's all there.
Absolutely, man. So, okay, brother. As I said, this is an interview with a deep meaning to me. So,
Right.
yeah, man, because you never know, right? Years back, I was, 7 years old, playing a video game, such a very cool video game, made a connection with my father.
Yeah.
I'm still playing that game. And now I'm talking with the guy who created and put many hours of just happiness out there for people. That's the way I'm seeing this interview. It's such a cool opportunity. You and honestly, let me tell you, you're such a humble individual, man. That I just love you more after this interview. I really want to say thank you so much. Yeah, no,
Awesome.
no.
Thanks.
And if you ever come to Florida, hit me up, brother.
Cool. Yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
Thank you so much, and I wish you the
Yeah,
best,
thanks.
brother.
Thank you very much. Take it easy.
Y bueno amigos, eso ha sido todo hasta acá. Estoy con mi librito de Doom que me envió John hace unos 2 o 3 meses. Hace mucho tiempo que venimos hablando para gestionar esta entrevista. No fue algo de un día para el otro, créanme. Esta entrevista realmente me deja un sentimiento lindo, de felicidad, de que las cosas son posibles. Y mucho de eso quiero agradecérselo a todos ustedes, porque sinceramente si el canal, si bien no somos una comunidad gigantesca, somos lo suficientemente buena o linda como para que tipos como John accedan a tener una entrevista, a darme a mí personalmente la oportunidad de poner la cara y crear el contenido que luego va a estar en internet para que todos ustedes lo vean. Yo sinceramente no sé si este video lo va a ver una persona o lo van a ver miles de personas, pero como individuo me quedo con una sensación hermosa y nada me quita este momento en el que pude hablar con una leyenda que dejó su huella marcada en la línea histórica de los videojuegos. Seguro me notaron un poquito nervioso, como dije al principio, realmente lo estaba, así que tal vez me mandé alguna macana con el inglés, o si me trabé un poquito, de verdad sepan entender a un tipo común que simplemente hace esto con amor, con ganas y con buenas intenciones. Eso es todo. Quedaron unas 15-20 preguntas afuera, pero se fue la hora volando y no quería abusar del tiempo de John. Estoy seguro de que personas de afuera habrían agregado otras preguntas, hice lo mejor que pude en el tiempo que teníamos disponible. Y yo repito, sinceramente estoy muy contento de haber tenido esta oportunidad y de poner este contenido ahí para ustedes, amigos. Dicho eso, denme hermano, compartan mi contenido, denle like, comenten, ayuden a que esta comunidad siga creciendo, súmense al Instagram donde podemos interactuar como dije antes, y el resto, amigos míos, ya se lo saben, dejen un like por acá si este video les gustaba, se suscriben por este otro lado y nos vemos la próxima.